From Wall Street to Main Street, this is LALATE.
It's a big evening of evenings LALATE with incredible great news about your fourth stimulus check update of 2022. And tonight for April 14th, 2022, the president is set to forgive completely certain student loan debts. I have the huge breaking news tonight. Then we'll be turning to the big economic data that signals where this economy is going and where your stimulus is going. The Build Back Better Act gets a big new push with latest economic data tonight. All the latest, what you need to know, but not one, not two. Three major checks have now landed. Joseph Biden has sent them out. Have you got to them? A $6,500 check, stimulus check, a $15,000 to $80,000 stimulus check, and a $24,000 MSC check. We'll go over all those big checks in tonight's recording, and that breaking news about student loan debts wiped away for some major viewers tonight. Those details you need to know, but then we'll be turning back to Build Back Better Act. The recession is looming, the inflation is growing, and the Federal Reserve is trying to solve inflation. But is it sending us into recession? I'll be looking at what's going on with that SS300. Off then to sixth stimulus. To solve the supply chain disruption caused by Vladimir Putin, France, Germany, and the United States. Are they going to get it done as a team or by themselves? All the latest details tonight across the board. Then we'll be looking at the situation on oil, wheat, and the supply chain disruption happening internationally. Why month two of the Putin invasion of Ukraine may be worse for us domestically and our oil prices. A lot happening across the board. Then, as this channel approaches its 2-year anniversary in just a few days, we're going to look at what we learned as a community and what we learned going forward. As not one, not two, but lots of checks are now landing, and you need them. The future of the U.S. economy, recession. The short-term, major inflation not settling down. And we'll look at that economic data that happened the last few days as well. For April 14th, 2022, the great news is that some students tonight will have all their federal debts wiped away and forgiven. Who is it? It's coming up in tonight's recording. Then we'll be looking at the big money you can get, the big money you deserve, and the big money that Purple Hawks are cleaning up with. If you haven't become a member, tonight's the night to get it. And the excitement starts right now on evening's most watched show in prime time for financial news. It's LALATE. Good evening, everybody. For April 14th, 2022, Liz Warren, after a 2-year endeavor, finally gets her way. Student loan debt has been wiped away, forgiven for millions of Americans, and I'm going to go over who that student loan debt is for. It's a subject of countless efforts by Liz Warren and Chuck Schumer of the breaking news tonight. Then we'll be turning back to those big checks that are landing, and you need them in view of the supply chain disruption happening internationally. We'll be looking at those three big checks. They are all stimulus checks, and they're huge. $6,500, $15,000 to $80,000, and $24,000 MSC checks. If you haven't become a member right today, right tonight, to get that incredible newsletter tonight, Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, via the YouTube alert system across the board. We'll be looking at what Jay Powell is doing with that inflation and those interest rates. Could it stall up the GDP of the U.S. economy? Or can he potentially not get down inflation because it's being caused by supply chain disruption? We'll be looking at the changing elements at issue and what Jay Powell can and cannot do. A lot to see and a lot to know in tonight's recording. And will that SS300 become a reality, or is that inflation actually still tracking higher? We'll be going over what the Federal Reserve is doing and isn't doing and what tools it has to solve the situation across the board. But tonight we start with the big news. The big news is the President of the United States has now forgiven millions of more Americans and their student loan debt. It's 7 stimulus. Millions of Americans were the subject of the president's campaign promise, the subject of Elizabeth Warren's efforts to get student loan debt forgiven. And tonight, the Department of Education says your debts will be forgiven if this event happened to you. Up to tonight's recording for April 14th, several groups had their debts wiped away. Number one, people went to work for the federal government or went to work for the local or city or county state as a civil service employee, or people who became disabled after graduation. Those two people had their debts completely wiped away. 2 days ago, on April 12th, the President of the United States said that if you have debts in default, he'll take them out of default and make them anew. And number three, just days before that, he said the repayment of the student loan debt is on moratorium to September. But tonight, some people will have their debts wiped away and forgiven permanently. Who are they? They're coming up in just a second. Let's first start with that Build Back Better Act, the fourth stimulus recount that is in the Senate. Huge checks in there across the board. There's three clusters of checks and three add-ons. Let's go over the details you need to know tonight, because guess what? It's your money, and it will happen. Many insiders now believe that the vote on the Build Back Better Act will happen in the month of April. Let's look at those three clusters of checks and amount to about $15,000 to $80,000 of checks. In that first cluster, we have in there hazard pay and money for elder care. Hazard pay, one more year. The earned income tax credit, huge. Then the $3,600 of CTC, one more year. Brand new, $4,000 of elder care, $4,000 of care for young children. Then a $550 check for the college students, the Pell Grant. $12,500 for the purchase of a new electric home. New electric car, not a home. And then money to repair your home if it's a low-income community. Yeah, I sort of mix those things together. But they sound good, don't they? Then, in that first cluster, they got a little bit less than $25,000 for the purchase of your first home. Got in there by Maxine Waters. How does that work? At the time of escrow, the federal government will give money to the seller in your name, a little bit less than $25,000. It's huge. And that is the first of three add-ons of checks to the Build Back Better Act. If we go right into that second cluster of checks, we have big money. What is that second cluster? Well, in that second cluster, we have in there paid leave and home repairs. Paid leave is a lot of money, folks. How much? If you make $70,000 or more per year, it's $1,700 a week. If you make $35,000 annual, it's $800 a week. And if you make $15,000, that's $400 a week. 4 to 6 weeks per year, so it's about $46,000. W-2, 1099, you get it. And if your son or daughter works and you don't work, but they have to take you to the doctor's office, then they get it as part of the household. That's paid leave. Sickness or illness, you have to stay home from work. Now, that other check in that second add-on, that second cluster of checks, is the home repairs to weatherize your home. But right there, hold up, raise your pens and paper, stop taking notes, exam over. Why? It's law. It is law. Congratulations. The President of the United States took the weatherizing homeowners grant of the Build Back Better Act out from the Senate bill and made it law by executive action. It's not the only time he's done it, because he's done it with another check in this Build Back Better Act. That first check, the $6,500, congratulations. So exciting news tonight. That check is Check A, and it's absolutely incredible. Let's look at that Check A. It is a $6,500 stimulus check made law by the President of the United States, executive action, March 31st. And then Check B, a $15,000 to $80,000 fourth stimulus check made law March 4th, 2022. Why don't you see this anywhere, Bouse? Because this is what I do on this channel. I get people checks. We cash checks. And as soon as they became law on March 31st and March 4th, they were featured in the membership newsletter for members. Because you can't wait a day to get these checks. They're first come, first serve. Have you become a member? Do it right this minute. Go to the top of the chat, go to the pinned comment. Become a Purple Hawk, Purple Power, or Calcino VIP. Because every day you wait, thousands of people in your state get in front of you and get those checks before you. We're going to go over those checks, A, B, and C, coming up in just a second in this recording. Let's go back in that Build Back Better Act. We were in the second cluster. So remember the home weatherizing grant check taken out. So what is still in there? Well, the paid leave is in that second cluster. Let's then go into the second add-on of checks, a little bit less than $250 billion. A free home health care for seniors and people with disabilities. That is the second add-on of checks to the Build Back Better Act. Let's go to that third cluster. It gets even better. Whoa. Free internet for all checks, farmers checks, independent contractors checks, and seniors checks. Seniors gain lots of checks. Dental checks, vision checks. hearing checks, lowering the eligibility age of Medicare from 65 to 55, and the Medicaid gap fix that will provide a workaround plan that will provide uninsured people in 12 Republican holdout states insurance coverage, which is par for the course. We're talking about adding checks to the Build Back Better Act. The other check that they represent, they will add in there, is an MSC. That stands for monthly IRS stimulus check. We're talking about Build Back Better Act so far. So who would get it? Incredible great news. The representatives from senators say that they would pay it out the same as a third stimulus check. Single individual, $75,000 less, you get it. Married couple, $150,000 less, you get it. Family of four, you get as well. Quadruple it. If you're on benefits, SSI, SSDI, Social Security, or railroad benefits, you get as well. It's not income. It's not taxable. It's not a loan. It's a grant. It's offered nationwide, not state by state. Goes off the most recent tax return. So if that tax return had direct deposit, that's how you get made. Otherwise, in the mail. Adult dependents also get it. So how many checks and how much? $7,000 total. $2,000 the first month, $1,000 thereafter for up to 6 months. And there you go. That is the Build Back Better Act. Many insiders now believe that the Build Back Better Act will be called for a vote in the month of April. But no time and place to wait for Build Back Better Act to become a law, because guess what? Tonight, folks, there's not one, not two, but 3 checks that are now law. A $6,500 fourth stimulus check is made law by the president's executive action. Remember, there's different ways that things can become a law. They become a law by Congress or by the president. Check A became a law by the president on March 31st. How do you get that check? It's coming up in a second. A check B became a law on March 4th by the president. And then check C, an MSC check, huge, became a law last year, 2021. We're going to go over those big checks in just a second. But first, let's go to the exciting details that's happening when we talk about SS300. What is SS300? When Joe Biden was running for president of the United States, and then his presidential platform at joebiden.com, he was going to do the Social Security reform that involves replacing COLA for inflation. By swapping COLA for inflation right now, you're likely to lock in 8% for inflation. And that's going to be $200 more per month, not just this month, not just this year, but a lifetime, because once your benefits go up, they never go down. And then if inflation tracks at 4% later this year, that's another $100, SS300. So where is that inflation tonight? Where is it tomorrow night? And where is it later this month? That is all part of the equation when we look at this guy, Jay Powell. Jay Powell, he's head of the Federal Reserve, and his job is reduce inflation. How does he reduce inflation? And how does this impact your benefits? The way that Jay Powell reduces inflation in his mind is by raising interest rates. By raising interest rates at monthly meetings called the FOMC meeting, he hopes to reduce inflation. But does it work or does it not work? Let's go to the situation tonight. Jay Powell had a quarter basis point increase for inflation in the month of March, as predicted, as he said he was going to do in the month of February. Now he's giving guidance that he's basically likely to do half basis point, a little bit more aggressive, in April, and then potentially in May. And many insiders say that the Fed governors may want to do it indefinitely. Now, what is the analysis tonight? The Federal Reserve had said he wanted to get inflation down to 4% by December, but then pivoted in March and said he wants to get it down to 1.9%. Let's do the analysis. If inflation was down at 1.9% later this year, that's no money. That's $10 more for your benefits check. If it's at 4%, that's an extra $100. If the swap from COLA to inflation happened tonight, that's 8%. That's another $200. But if inflation was 4% tonight or 5%, that's not that good. So what is my guidance tonight? What is my analysis that I'm seeing tonight? Number one, if Joe made the swap from COLA to inflation right today for April 14th, 2022, it's likely that inflation is still tracking 8%. Why? Because we had a lot of economic data, including the Consumer Price Index number, released this week that signals inflation has not gone down in the month of April compared to the month of March. Last summer, I said that the inflation rate is going to be 8% in December 2021. So the Federal Reserve says it was going to be 2 to 3% and temporary. transitory. I said, no, it's not going to be temporary or transitory. It's going to be sustained at 8%. I was right. It came in at 8% in December, then 8% in January, then 8% in February. So what happened in March? We learned that in the last 48 hours when the consumer price index number came in at 8.5% from the year before. But what did it look like, the March number compared to the February number? Was it lower after J-Powell did a quarter basis point increase for inflation? I said it was not going to be lower. I was again right. It came in at about a third of a percentage point higher in March than February. Wall Street think it was going to be a half basis point higher, half an interest point higher. So it shows that we're tracking hotter on the inflation. This is good news for your benefits because remember, Joe Biden makes a phone call right today to swap your COLA for inflation. You lock in that $200 more per month. How long is this going to happen? Well, J-Powell is going to come in with that half basis point increase in April. We all know that. And likely in May. So you don't want to wait till May for Joe to make that swap. Now, why is inflation so hot? The inflation's really hot because of consumer food and energy. Consumer food rose 1% in March compared to February. 1% higher in March compared to February. Let's look at energy. Like oil. Vladimir Putin caused? Yeah. It went up 11% in the month of March compared to the month of February. Ouch. That's a really big jump. So the good news is that those two numbers, which comprise a big part of the CPI, the inflationary benchmark, which reached 8.5%, were hotter, and they are tracking hotter, like energy, which tracked at 11% month over month, but year to date, 32% higher. Wow. So Joe Biden made that swap for COLA into inflation tonight. We're good. We're good. We are likely to raise that benefits to $200 more per month. What about by the end of the year? Can J-Powell get that inflation down to 1.9% by the end of the year like he thinks he can? I think not. That's caused by supply chain. The latest analysis tonight I have for you is that J-Powell is overstating his abilities. He thinks he can reduce inflation at the Federal Reserve by raising interest rates. I say he cannot, because the cause of the situation tonight is supply chain disruption. That supply chain disruption is very bad, and that supply chain disruption is in many parts. Number one, the supply chain disruption is caused in part by the pre-Putin events. Then it's caused by the post-Putin events. Let's go to the analysis. Tonight, we have not one, not two, but three supply chain disruptions. That's keeping inflation higher, which is good news for your SS300. We had supply chain disruption, the inability to get products to you from the manufacturer when we came out of COVID. Couldn't get a truck driver, couldn't get a shipper, couldn't get a guy to drive the boat internationally. And that was supply chain disruption in early January, then February. Then came Vladimir Putin. We invaded Ukraine. That caused supply chain disruption for those products overseas, a second supply chain disruption. Tonight for April 14, 2022, the supply chain disruption is getting worse, folks, because of China. China, which is a major hub for our products made over there and their products coming to us, is now sustaining COVID new restrictions because the subvariant of Omicron spreading again. Supply chain disruption threefold. J-Powell has no tools to get down supply chain caused inflation. Inflation on goods, wheat, food, and energy is all caused by supply chain. It ain't caused by interest rates. And why J-Powell thinks he can raise interest rates to reduce inflation, I think wrong. I think it's the supply chain disruption. And the good news, if I'm right, is that he's not going to get down inflation by the end of the year to 1.9%. It's going to be at 4%. And it may not fall that dramatically in the month of April, May. Hashtag Joe make the phone call. Joe make the call tonight to swap that COLA for inflation right now that Social Security Administrator had. Now, in the second half of this video, we have the big breaking news. It is a huge one, as Liz Warren has won. Liz Warren has finally won tonight, as the student loan debts for millions of Americans are now forgiven for a select group but an encompassing group that was the rallying cry for student loan debt. It's huge, and millions of those students now tonight have their debts forgiven. Is it you? I'll have the latest details in the second half. Then we'll be looking at six stimulus, what's going on with that oil, wheat, grain, and how it impacts your wallet, because guess what? Six stimulus is the biggest stimulus package of checks to you that we've seen in a generation. Then we'll be going back over to those three checks, A, B, and C. They're huge, and they've been landing. Have you got to them? Plus, I'll have my insight as the shadow approaches its 2-year anniversary, April 25th, 2022. We'll go over what we learned in the past and what we'll learn going forward, because there's a lot to learn on this channel. And we'll see whether this economy is going into better inflation or worse recession. Yes, coming up in the second half of this video is those three checks. Check C, check B, and check A. And if you haven't checked to see if you're a member, go check, because you want to become a member right now during the commercial break. Become a Purple Hawk, Purple Power, or Calcino VIP. The link is at the top of the chat and the pinned comment. Get that membership newsletter, because that's how you get those checks A and B and C. That's delivered 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Monday through Friday. Join the thousands of others who are members on this channel to get these big checks, because they're checks available for you right now. They're huge. And in some states, they're even hotter, higher, and bigger and bolder. We're going to go over all that data in the second half of this video, plus the breaking news about that student loan debt, plus what's going on with that six stimulus. We got big evening's broadcast for April 14th, 2022. We're just getting started. But first, here's a little bit about the community page. I'll see you back in 60 seconds as Evenings LA continues. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE Daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE. And the excitement continues on a big night of April 14th, 2022, as the President of the United States forgives student loan debt for millions of Americans, wipes it away, gone, absolutely cleaned out. All the latest details on that breaking news story tonight. It's huge, as millions of Americans will wake up tomorrow morning with no student loan debt. It's huge, and all the latest details tonight. Then we'll be looking at six stimulus and why what the Federal Reserve is doing is part of the equation, and whether that six stimulus will come to fruition if Macron does not win his re-election bid in France. He's part of the trifecta, France, Germany, and the United States, to get that six stimulus package. I'll go over the latest details tonight. Plus, we'll be going over what's going on with that oil prices. As the price of oil continues to surge higher once again, you thought it was supposed to go lower. At least the President of the United States said it was going to. Where is that oil price going to go for you at the pump? I have the latest economic news you need to know. Plus, the housing market. Yes, people have been asking me about the housing market. And tonight I'm going to go over why that housing market, in my opinion, tonight is in recession. Then we'll be looking at the other industry that is likely already in recession and the one that's right behind that as well. But first tonight, folks, we're going to go over the breaking news about that student loan debt that just happened minutes ago, and then we're going to go over those big checks, A, B, and C, for you to get. The President of the United States, minutes ago, made a major announcement on that student loan debt, and here we go. The announcement follows several announcements in recent days. Let's recap what led up to tonight's events. The President of the United States ran on a platform to forgive student loan debt. Then, as soon as he was president-elect, Chuck Schumer and Liz Warren advocated to Joe Biden to forgive $50,000 of student loan debt per student. He didn't do it. Then he said, maybe I'll do $10,000. Then they said, no, push more. Initially, the president forgave student loan debts for individuals who became disabled after graduation completely. Then he forgave completely student loan debts for people who went to work in the public sector, the government sector after graduation. And then this week, the president made a series of major moves. Number one, he said the repayment of student loan debt is still frozen till September. So you don't have to pay any debt back to September. That was number one. Number two, he said that if your debt was in default status, he'll put it back to good standing. And then tonight, the major announcement. The major announcement tonight is that individuals whose student loan debt, federal student loan debt, was in the result of fraud committed by the university against the student, the debt is wiped away. This is a huge one. This is a huge win for Liz Warren. Because if you have watched the videos on this channel, Liz Warren, in advocating for student loan debt forgiveness, always used this as her example. She said the reason why student loan debt has to be forgiven is because people should not have had the debt. The universities committed fraud against the students in these scenarios. And she said if you were the victim of fraud, you should have your debts wiped away. You shouldn't have a debt looming there because you are the victim of fraud from your university. Tonight, the president, after over a year of Liz Warren making YouTube video after YouTube video about this, has now agreed. The president of the United States is signing in a wiping away of student loan debts for individuals who are the result of fraud committed by the universities against them. Again, that's federal student loan debt. It leaves us guessing what's the next move by the White House. Because, folks, this is the core bread and butter of what Liz Warren was asking for in student loan debt forgiveness. What would be left after this? There's really almost nothing left except forgiving, wiping away all student loan debt. It looks like the president's doing it in stages. And that's what Ron Klain had said the president was going to do just days ago. Very, very exciting for you. So how do you do this? Reach out to the Department of Education. They'll have guidance on their website about how to get that student loan debt wiped away. And I'll feature more about this tomorrow on this channel because this is breaking news tonight. Now let's go to those 3 checks. Great news. 3 checks, stimulus checks, now law. And huge, absolutely huge. And they're big sums of money. The first stimulus check, you remember, was $1,200. The second one was $600. The third one was $1,400. These are not small checks. They are a lot more zeros. In many cases, they are upwards of $85,000. Some cases, over $150,000. Let's look at those 3 checks tonight. It is great. And I have new insight about how to get these big checks this evening for April 14, 2022 as well. As we look at that check A, B, and C, what's important to understand is how they came to fruition. Check A was supposed to be, was in the Build Back Better Act, and the president took it out. He took out Check B from the Build Back Better Act as well. And then Check C was in the American Rescue Plan, the third stimulus package last year. But now it's acting as an MSC this month. Wow. So let's go over these 3 checks, but remember those routing dates. Let's look at those dates because it's important. They've been law for over a month, most of these checks, so you want to pounce and get these checks right away. You don't want to wait to become a member. You don't want to wait to get that newsletter. You don't want to wait to get these checks. Let's go over each of them, starting with Check A. Check A is a $6,500 check in some states, but in other states it's upwards of $12,000. The minimum is $6,500. It's a 4 stimulus check. It was in the Build Back Better Act. The President of the United States took it out. What is it? It's the homeowner's weatherizing grant check. What is the income qualification? It's so easy. It's the same as a third stimulus check. Single individual, $75,000 less, you can get it. Married couple, $150,000 less, you can get it. If you're on benefits like Social Security or veterans benefits, you can get as well. The last qualification is you own your own home. Don't worry about the terminology of home. Mobile home, not a mobile home. Don't worry. Just go to the website and get that application on file. So how to get this check? How do you get this check? First, you want to become a member. Go to the top of the chat, description of the video, or under the video where it says join, or become a member, and become a Purple Hawk, Purple Power, or Calcino VIP. When you become a paid member, then you get that incredible newsletter Monday through Friday. 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 9 o'clock Central Standard Time, delivered via the YouTube alert system. However you receive those YouTube alerts, look for the one at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, and it actually says newsletter. It actually has an image that says newsletter. And right in there are the details. Let's go over the details of what it says for Check A. First, it'll give you the amount, that $6,500 check. Then it'll say homeowners weatherizing grant check. Then it'll give you more eligibility that you need to know. And then it'll give you the links. Yeah, this check you apply for online. You can do it on your cell phone or do it on a computer. You'll go right into the federal website. You then choose your state, like Alabama. And then you choose your state's program, the Alabama Weatherizing Grant Check. And then you pounce, you apply, and you get funded. So easy, huge check, and it's great. That is Check A. Check B bears resemblance to Check A, but is slightly different. Of course, it's a lot more money. Let's go over Check B right now. Are you excited? I'm very excited for Check B because viewers have got it. It is $15,000 to $80,000, but many viewers are tracking it over $66,000 for this check. First, what is it? It's a forced stimulus check. Number two, what is it called? It's called the homeowners grant check. Number three, what is the income qualification? The same as a third stimulus check. Same as Check A. It is single individual, $75,000 less, married couple, $150,000 less, and if you're on benefits like Social Security or veterans benefits, you can get as well. Finally, you have to own your own home. This is the homeowners grant check. And what's different about this is it pays for a lot of other things that you want help with, like home repairs, like property taxes. All of them are featured in the newsletter. In that newsletter, right under Check A is Check B. In that Check B, it'll give you the qualifications, more about what the check pays for, and then it'll give you the link to apply for this check. It's a different website. You'll go into the website. You'll see a map of the U.S. country. Then you'll look at the map and you'll choose your respective state to apply. You hit that state and you go right into your state and you apply. You don't wait, because guess what? I featured Check A the first day it became law. I featured Check B the first day it became law. And you can't wait, because every day that you wait to become a member, every day you wait to get that newsletter, every day you wait to apply, thousands of people apply in front of your state, and eventually the program will run out of money. I've been doing this since day one on this channel, where I tell viewers the importance of doing things that day. Not even later that day, not even the next day, that day. Because these programs get a lot of coverage. This channel has a lot of viewership, and you cannot miss to get an application on file as quickly as possible. So go to the top of the chat and pin comment, get that membership right tonight. Now, let's go into Check C. Check C is huge because this was a big, great detail for millions of viewers. Check C is different than A and B for many reasons, and great news for all the viewers of this channel. Let's look at Check C right now. Check A, Check B, and Check C are for homeowners. But if you're a renter, you can get Check C. Yeah, if you're a renter, you can get Check C. It is, you heard me right, an MSC, baby. An MSC. Viewers of this channel are getting these MSC checks since last year, and in recent days are getting more checks across the board. Let's do a quick reality check, because that's what we do on this channel as we approach our 2-year anniversary, April 25th, 2022. The Build Back Better Act is not law, and it does not have it in there, but proposes to add in an MSC, on Build Back Better Act, that is $2,000 the first month, $1,000 every month thereafter for up to 6 months. That is $7,000 total over 6 months. This third stimulus, MSC check, is tracking about $2,000 a month over 12 months. That's $24,000, but many viewers are getting on average $45,000 from this MSC, and a lot of viewers have gotten over $150,000. It involves rent. Look at these incredible numbers for rent. Huge. It involves utilities. We've had many viewers getting upwards of $20,000 in utilities. Huge. It involves the combo of the items. Look at these numbers, $32,000. It involves getting these big sums of money. Look at Mark's numbers, 50,000. He went to 100,000. Then he got check B. He went to 166. Here's Lorraine. She was at 105, and now she's at 120. These are very big checks, folks. So how do you get these three checks? How do you get that check C? In the case of that check C, it is different than check A and B. Why? Let's go over the details of check C right now. First, you can get it if you make $75,000 less. Single individual, married couple, $150,000 less. And if you're on benefits, SSI, SSDI, Social Security, or railroad benefits, you can get as well. I had one SSI and SSDI viewer just a few days ago get $66,000 for check C. What is different from check C compared to A and B is C is done with your phone. You just pick up the phone call and talk about it. Check A and B involves going to an application either on your phone or your computer. But C, you don't have to have any knowledge about anything except being able to talk on your phone. You have an old rotary phone? Good. That's all you need. Pick up the phone and call. So who do you call? Well, here we go. We're going to go over the who you call right now. If you're a member, there's even more places to reach out to get that information on board. Let's go over the details of who you call right now. You're ready? You're going to reach out to your city hall, your city housing authority, your county hall, and your county housing authority, plus your state hall and your state housing authority. And the keywords you're going to say are rent assistance because of COVID, utility assistance because of COVID, mortgage assistance because of COVID. Stop the graphic. You don't say other words. You don't call up and ask, I want some check A. I'd like a zucchini boat. I'd like check B. I'd like an MSC. I'd like a Michitini. You don't add additional words. You say exactly these words. They won't know what you're talking about if you change what I say. Again, rent assistance because of COVID, utility assistance because of COVID, mortgage assistance because of COVID. So if you're a member of this channel, you're going to have more than 6 places. Because the membership of this channel has the nonprofits in the newsletter. And those nonprofits are huge because I've been featuring them on this channel since 2020, the first year of this channel. They pick up money nearly everywhere, especially if in the most difficult states where you may have problems getting big sums of money. And one viewer last night had a big question. I haven't said it in a while. The viewer asked, can you get rent from more than one place? Yes. Can you get utilities from more than one place? Yes, you can. So let's say your utility company will give you $800 off the bill. Well, the nonprofit can also pick up $600 off the other part of the bill. So yes, you can get money from 2 different places. Get multiple applications on file, and then do these months as far as you can. Become a member tonight. Why? Because that membership newsletter features those nonprofits, and that gives you more opportunity to get those big sums of money. Like Johnny, who reached out to 15 places in 7 days, he got $80,000. 15 places. That helps. The more places you have to reach out to as a member, the better it is. Rely on those nonprofits to get those big sums of money. You deserve it. Get those big sums of money tonight. The average view of this channel has gotten $45,000. In recent days, it was $2,000 for 12 months. Before that, it was $45,000. On top of that, combined, not separate. Get those sums of money tonight. Do not wait. You deserve it. Get those monies across the board. That, my friends, is check A, B, and C. Let's recap. Check A is a stimulus check that is huge, $6,500, and is available for everyone that's a homeowner as featured on this channel. Check B for homeowners and check C for homeowners and renters. How do you get the information? You become a member. Become a member tonight. Go to the top of the chat or under the description of the video. Become a Purple Hawk, Purple Power, or Calcino VIP. Get that newsletter delivered to you Monday through Friday. It comes 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 9 o'clock Central, via the YouTube alerts. It says in it, the newsletter. It has an image of the newsletter. The title says the newsletter. And the opening line says newsletter and features first the oil, wheat, and grain prices. Right after that is those big checks. Become a member tonight across the board. As we look at the situation tonight for 6 stimulus, it's getting very interesting. The United States had reached out to Germany and France in the first week of the invasion of Ukraine by Vladimir Putin, saying, get off those Russian products. Initially, Germany said no to the United States. Anthony Blinken reached back out, saying, yes, you must, morally. And they said, okay, we will. Then Germany in the last 2 weeks said, no, we won't, changed mind. Then last Sunday, we watched on as France's Macron was up for re-election. He's part of the important trifecta between the progressives of Joe Biden, Macron, and the German chancellor to get the six stimulus package done. The concept is raise deficit spending domestically and give out stimulus to the citizens. But what has happened the last few days? Number one, the United States government has banned Russian products, so we've done it domestically. Number two, Macron did not win. Macron went to re-election last Sunday and did not get a convincing re-election win. He's going into runoff later this April. Will we win then? We'll watch. And then Germany saying we're knocking off those Russian products. We're too dependent. What's new tonight? As Deutsche Bank, which is one of the major German banks, says, as to the German economy, Germany must do a stimulus package or they're going into recession. Now, I don't think that's much of a stretch for Deutsche Bank to do that analysis because guess what? Doesn't matter what country you're in, you cannot afford $4 a gallon for gasoline one more month. I've been saying that since the first week of the Vladimir Putin invasion of Ukraine. We're in month 2 right now. And where's the price of gasoline tonight? It has come down slightly in the United States from $4.24 nationwide average AAA unleaded to $4.14, but that's not much of an improvement. 10 cents? No, that's not much of an improvement. And if it does not drop, then we're going to recession. The other part of the equation is that the wheat and the corn, if you remember the channel you see in the newsletter nightly, it's gotten worse. It got worse last night. It got worse the night before. This number, folks, is getting much higher. Let's go over the recap right now. When you look at six stimulus, you have to worry about the commodities, which are wheat, grain, corn, soybeans, and then oil. Oil has not come down. It's vacillating up and down. It went down to 98 earlier this week, dollars a barrel, international Brent crude. Last night it was 108, so it went right back up. And then when you look at the wheat and the corn, I shouldn't laugh. It's just every day it's worse. Every day it's worse than the day before. And I've been telling you that Wall Street and myself all believe that there's a 40% upside for the situation. I think it's going to get a lot worse. Here's what you need to know is that you cannot afford a $5 loaf of bread indefinitely. One more month of $5 loaf of bread, you're going to recession. You cannot afford $4 a gallon indefinitely or you're going to recession. And that is the concept of six stimulus. Give deficit spending. And now Deutsche Bank saying Germany must do it, they're going to recession. Same thing domestically with the United States. We need as well because no one can afford these price points into the month of May. We had that day one of the Vladimir Putin, and it has improved. To where are we tonight? Let's go over the situation on each of those fronts right now. Number one, what about that trifecta, Germany, France, and the United States? It doesn't look that secure. We don't need the trifecta to get us six stimulus domestically. Joe Biden can do it himself. But as to France and Germany, it doesn't look that secure for them. That is a little problematic to us because remember, if we stay out of recession and our partner allies go into recession, they can pull us down a recession. So I would hope that those countries get their refocusing on point. Number two, what about the situation for oil tonight? The situation for oil tonight is no better than it was just a month ago. There are three events that have happened with oil. First, we had a deal with Iran to release millions of barrels. It's called the JCPOA. It's 15 years of negotiations, negotiated in Vienna just the last month by Germany and Italy on our behalf, Germany and France on our behalf, with Iran, and they got the deal to the edge of the finish line. 1.5 million barrels from Iran by the end of the year per day, 500,000 barrels right this month. That'll bring down the price of Brent crude, price of gasoline at the pump, the lowest of a generation. And then no deal. And then no deal. No one is telling us out of Vienna why no deal happened. That was the type of deal we wanted because we need enough gasoline released for not just us, but our partner allies because they are in a shortage. The way gasoline works is if everyone's having a shortage of gasoline, everyone needs more gasoline, not just one country. And that's what Joe Biden didn't understand last week when he announced the release of 1 million barrels of the domestic reserves in the United States of gasoline here for U.S. citizens. I said, great, but that doesn't do anything for anyone. It ain't going to bring down the price of gasoline because this is the way the gasoline works. Your price that you pay at the pump is based upon the international price of gasoline. So if one country releases more gasoline for their citizens, it doesn't bring down the price. You have to bring down the whole price of gasoline down internationally. Last weekend, we had a major deal with one organization who got its 60-member countries to release more gasoline. It was good. It was good. So when you included that plus what the U.S. has released, how many barrels per day? 1.5 million barrels per day when you combine the two groups. Good. Is that enough? No. Because the emission oil from Russia is 3 million barrels a day. We're only halfway there. So what is the only glimmer of hope on this horizon? And it comes out of nowhere. The glimmer of hope is China. And it's not what you think it is. China is going on a major trajectory downward because of a subvariant of Omicron that's surging out of control. In Shanghai, for example, the State Department has told its employees to get out of the country right away. Now, oil analysts are projecting that the price of oil internationally will go down because Chinese citizens won't be driving because they're on a new pseudo lockdown. Fascinating. So that may bring down the price of gasoline for us, but it's not a long-term fix because we know that lockdowns don't happen indefinitely. Very interesting across the board. Now, when we turn to that wheat and grain, this is where it gets deeply troubling. Why? No one's doing anything. No one is doing anything. I've been making recordings about wheat and grain on this channel since day one of the invasion of Ukraine. And the situation gets worse by the day. It's as though I'm talking to the wind and no one hears me. Why? The crops that are harvested in Ukraine service much of that whole region. Egypt gets 80% of its crops from Ukraine and Russia. And we're talking about wheat and corn. Those crops are now gone for this season because the farmers cannot harvest it. They're defending their country. Next season's crops are lost because they can't prepare the soil. They're defending their country. And the season after that, they may be lost because the crops may be cluster bombed. So with that situation, is anyone doing anything to solve it? No. Nothing in the United States? No. Nothing in France? No. Nothing in Germany? No. And that is why I'm deeply worried because no one is pivoting this situation and no country can survive on a price of wheat or corn through the roof. All economies, modern economies, eat and consume wheat and corn. And if you don't have a price point that is normalized and it's out of control, you have a big problem. Tonight, the problem's worse because every day this week in the membership newsletter, you've seen that price of wheat and corn go higher than it was the month before. What is my analysis situation tonight when we look at that and what else is happening? My analysis situation tonight is that the U.S. economy is heading into a 2-year recession with 2 industries already in recession tonight. My projection is that the U.S. economy will be in a full recession in 2023 and 2024 because supply chain disruption is very robust. And that supply chain disruption will cause this recession to look like any other. Why? Because generally in a recession, you have price going down. Generally in a recession, you have GDP going down to flat or negative. But in this type of war session, as one analyst says, you may have inflation plus a flat GDP. What does this mean? You means that, for example, you go to buy some bread and you have a recession environment, but the bread may be more expensive than the day before. That is why this is like any other recession beforehand. Where are we tonight? In my opinion, tonight, the U.S. economy is already in recession with the housing industry and the auto industry. First, the auto industry. The auto industry saw a gangbuster year in 2021, but auto sales are dramatically down in 2022, and that is also compounded by the shortage of products, that component products to make the car. And those component products, we don't even know the extent of them. Again, that's all supply chain that even the Federal Reserve doesn't know. Like seatbelts that are made for a lot of the U.S. auto manufacturers' cars out of Ukraine. Guess where that seatbelt manufacturer is? Ukraine. I also believe, in my opinion, that the housing industry tonight is in recession. 4 consecutive months of slumping sales for new home sales. Housing sales are down 4 consecutive months, number one. The cost to repair homes or build new homes dramatically up month after month after month as labor continues to go up higher and higher. That means that we're likely in a bubble. As one major real estate broker was quoted in broadcast news this week saying, "Are you worried about the mortgage rates at the highest level since the 1980s? 5%. That's up dramatically from just a year ago." The individual said no, because when people go buy homes in New York, where we represent, where the average 4-bedroom condo is $6 million, they're paying cash. They're not worried about that. That is true bubble language, in my opinion. That is the type of language that sends economies into spiral downward. What you need to know is when we're looking at a recession, it comes very abruptly. U.S. growth in the United States, GDP, is what you look at when you're looking at recession. It'll slow down to 1%, 2%, then 0.5%, then potentially a -% because it's negative growth. That is what a recession looks like. Where are we right tonight? We were hearing 7% inflation, 7% GDP growth as a projection earlier this last week. Then it came at 6.9%. It may be even lower right now. Some analysts say it may be tracking down to 4% very quickly. The growth is stalling up very quickly, folks. And as interest rates go higher, as the price of energy goes up 33% year to date and 11% now in March, well, last month of March compared to the month of February, these are massive price escalations. Costs a lot more to do things, and you're not making necessarily a lot more money, whether you're a business, a sole practitioner, or an employee. Very, very troubling across the board. Has the White House prepared for these equations? No. Have the White House known about the situation? Yes. The White House and you and I all knew, as I recorded in October 2021, that there's 100,000 Russian troops at the Ukrainian border. And if those Russian troops invade Ukraine, it will be the biggest economic story of 2022. It happened. And the White House should have prepared accordingly beforehand and after that invasion happened. It is not. Now, what's the next calamity at hand? Spread of Omicron subvariant. If China goes on major lockdown and that subvariant gets much worse, then that spread could be coming back to the United States, and that spread could also disrupt our supply chain. We have not one, not two, but 3 supply chain disruptions right now. Coming out of COVID, supply chain disruption. Vladimir Putin causes supply chain disruption, and now China's supply chain disruption. That causes prices to go up. You can't afford the prices. That causes you to consume less. Consumer confidence dropping because of inflation. And then you got a recession on top of that. That's a lot to digest. But that's what we do on this channel. And that's why it's important to get those 3 checks that are available tonight. You don't wait. 3 checks, huge checks. You don't wait. And when new checks become law, I immediately feature on this channel. And I immediately show you how to become a member and get those checks. So you don't want to wait a minute to become a member. You want to stay a member, because as checks become a law, you want to pounce. A $6,500 check, a $15,000 to $80,000 check, and an MSC check. We're just getting started. Coming up throughout the night is Evenings LALATE, brand new every night at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, America's most watched show in prime time for financial news. 6 o'clock's Evenings Countdown, 7 o'clock's Evenings Stream and Stimulus, 8 o'clock's Evenings Extra, and 9 o'clock's new hit show, Evening Sunset. From the shores of Santa Monica, California, to the shores of your family, thank you for being part of this incredible family over its 2-year anniversary, 2-year history. Over the next few days, we'll be looking back and looking forward over what we've learned as a community. A lot of holiday, birthday celebrations as well coming to the channel. Stay informed, stay focused, and stay with LALATE for more.